I love the idea that you're getting into Howard the Duck. It's such a weird. It has become cult status.
Yeah. If we didn't do it, no one else was going to do it. So we're the only people equipped to bring this back up.
Yeah. I noticed in the questions you sent me, you know, I was in Leonard Part 6. So if I had been in Ishtar, I would have had a trifecta of the 3 worst movies of that era. So I was that close to nailing it.
Reed Kirk Rahlmann appeared in 3 films, and we are thankful that one of them was Howard the Duck, because it brings us together today. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, Reed.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, before we get into Howard the Duck, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because I do a lot of research on our guests, and there is strikingly little a bit about you that Google actually knows, which is actually admirable in this day and age. Like you've went above Google's radar, so we applaud you on that. But we haven't had the opportunity to feel this curious about something since like 1995. So this is truly a moment for us.
All right.
So just we'll give the preface of what we do know, is that your first role, of course, was Howard the Duck. It was followed by Leonard Part 6, and then an episode of Nash Bridges, which came 11 years later.
Right.
And I caught a few videos of you performing stunts. I saw one in particular where you were hammering a nail into your nose.
Yes.
So if you could fill in the blanks for us from there, what led into acting, and then what led into hammering objects into your face?
Well, the hammering the objects came first. I trained as years ago, I went to Ringling Brothers Clown College, and I was admitted there. And when I was there, one of my instructors was this Englishman who taught me how to eat fire and hammer a nail in my head. Because he thought those would be good skills if the clowning didn't work out, which in fact, I did travel for a year on a circus. And then I came back to San Francisco, and I started performing. And one of the things I would do, the nail thing, it's called the Human Blockhead. And it's something you will see often at carnivals or sideshows. And I would eat fire as well. I was actually on the Gong Show eating fire. I was on the last week of the Gong Show. So I did that, and I enjoyed the kind of freakish nature of these sort of skills. Mm-hmm. And I would do them on the side. And then I was involved in the San Francisco comedy scene. And I had I was with a comedy ensemble, a couple of them. All of my friends moved to LA. I stayed here. But I started from being in the comedy ensemble, I would do movies and commercials. Mm-hmm. And that's where we got Howard the Duck. And then later on, I started performing as this character, Sebastian Boswell III, who, if you look him up online, he's this kind of odd, imperious character who, the character was, I wanted him to be based on, because it started in a show where I was cast to be performing about the same time Houdini was popular. And the nugget of the character was, he's actually doing things. He's hammering nails in his nose, and he is not as famous as Houdini, who is fooling people by doing tricks. So there's this kind of bitter core to Sebastian. So he's always trying to prove himself. And then I've been doing that, but haven't been doing it much. And 8 years ago, I started a private tour company called Small Car Big Time Tours, where I give tours in the San Francisco and the Bay Area in a convertible Mini Cooper. I am the only convertible Mini Cooper registered as a commercial vehicle in the country.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So So I just did a tour today, which was why I asked the podcast to be moved back, because I got a call this morning. Hey, can you take me on a tour? And I could have made it, but I would have had like rush in and sit down. And so thank you for giving me a little extra time to get myself together. But that's
No
what I
problem.
just a little while ago. So
yeah, that's the only convertible Mini that can you please send me a pic?
commercial registered as a commercial vehicle. Technically, I am a limousine because a limousine is a car for hire. And
Oh, okay.
so that's different than a touring vehicle, because a touring vehicle does set routes. I don't. My tours are completely personal and customized. I can do anything you want. You come to San Francisco, I can show you like all the Howard the Duck locations. You know, I can do whatever the guests want. And so therefore I am what is considered a car for hire, which is technically a limousine. So I am technically a limousine, or the car is.
Be a funny gag like, hey man, come on, everybody get ready. I got us a limousine.
Right.
Right. By definition, he does.
A literal, in a sense, a clown car with a certified clown.
With a certified clown in it, exactly. Yeah.
Is there a name for the company?
Small Car, Big Time Tours.
Boom.
Nice. And please send me a picture of that so
I
can
will
include that as an overlay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, be happy to.
Awesome.
And I just want to say that watching the videos of what I've seen of your performance of doing your do you prefer magic or illusion? Like what is the preferred term?
It's a style of it's a form of magic called mentalism, where it gives the impression of reading minds, of being a mind reader, being able to do predictions, being able to do those other things. The thing about Sebastian's character is he claims he can actually read minds. And, you know, the thing is that, you know, most mentalists, when you go out today, when you see them, they'll say, you know, I don't really read minds. It's kind of like heavy psychology. I rely on body language and your voice inflections and that sort of thing.
21 with Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So Sebastian claims he can actually read minds. The character does. But when you see him, it's pretty apparent he's really he's over the top. And, you know, and as he says, I claim to read minds. I claim to be able to do all of these things. All of these things are within my power. They are everything you could do if you had just spent your lifetime in the pursuit of human perfection, as Sebastian has. You could do it. So if that was your whole focus, you could be as amazing as Sebastian is. And as he says at the end of the show, to make these claims, I have to be telling the truth, lying, or insane. And I'm not lying.
Yes. So yeah, I love the name too. Where did the name Sebastian come from?
I wanted something pretentious.
That the Sebastian is,
and it's not to say people who are named Sebastian are pretentious, but Sebastian just sounded like this elevated name. Boswell I got from an English name, Boswell, who was a writer, and I thought Sebastian Boswell. I thought that's pretty good, but he has to be the third. He has to be like, it has to be more, you know.
yeah.
You know, I thought like Sir Sebastian, no, it's Sebastian Boswell III, which gives me an opportunity when everybody talks about, well, what about your father? And he doesn't talk about his father. There was obviously a very contentious relationship with his father, which he does not discuss.
Only thing he was missing was Esquire.
Or I was going to say,
Esquire would have been good too. Yeah.
Maybe one day he can be knighted and become Lord Sebastian Boswell.
Yes. And I mean, I don't know how much we're talking. One of the things I love about him is in the show, he talks about personally knowing Houdini, personally knowing the Dadaists of the 20s, and then about having a brief stint with his own television show, and then being completely familiar with technology of the present day. So he's either clearly mad or he is timeless.
Yeah, he also taught Jesus the trick of walking on water
That
and
would,
turning
yeah,
water to wine.
which was much harder, because he had the holes in his feet, and so
Yeah.
Whoa.
I love it. No, and you do a fantastic job at like crowd control and going back and forth with the crowd. I love the it was almost like a catchphrase that I picked up on just watching one performance with, like, you'd point people out and be like, oh, I love that expression. Like, you're doing what you're doing up on the stage to get
Yes.
whatever expression you're seeing down there. And the fact that you actually pointed out, say,
Yes.
and I'm sure it's somebody with a very uncomfortable face that you're pointing out.
Sometimes they're delighted, it sort of depends.
Yeah, I guess that would be as exciting. Like, so, the fact that you are excited about the fact that I'm putting a nail in my face. We'll talk
Yes.
afterwards. Yeah.
Yes.
So to get into Howard the Duck, you played Bender, and this is
Bender.
one of the first humans that Howard encounters. In
Yeah.
fact, he's thrust upon you by the goons in the alley as
Yes.
come back here with my date, or that.
Yes. That's my date.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my date.
So what we've heard that you actually mentioned that this was that it was a strange experience. Can you tell me what's strange about it?
Okay, so in my particular case, as you see in the movie, I go from an exterior shot to an interior shot. And the exterior was shot, I believe, in November, and it was shot in the South of Market neighborhood of San Francisco, which at the time was just warehouses and rundown buildings and light industry. Now South of Market in San Francisco is like jumping. But at the time it was just this alley. So the idea was they were shooting the exterior there in November, and then they would shoot the exterior of me getting thrust upon by the goons, Howard being shoved into me, and I would go through the door. And then the interior was going to be shot later, possibly even a couple months later, which was fine. So we do that shot in November, and it all goes well. And then they say, okay, great, and we'll give you a call for the interior shot, which is going to be whenever. And the interior was shot at the Mabuhay Gardens, which is a very famous punk club in San Francisco. The Mabuhay Gardens was where all the major punk acts played, whether they were coming in from out of town or the San Francisco punk acts like the Dead Kennedys and the Avengers and Humans. And then, of course, all the other punk acts would come through there. So that's where they were shooting it. So by the time the interior shot comes around, the production is kind of, as near as I can tell, like not really in control much anyway. It's not going smoothly. And my agent would call me up and say, okay, they want you this day. And I'd go, great. And I'd block it out. And then he'd give me a call the next day. No, they want to cut you. No, they're not going to do it. They're going to do it this other day. And I'd say, okay. And then they'd say, okay, well, they're not doing it that day. They're doing it this day. And I go, okay. Now, he did the one thing, this was brilliant as an agent, because as an actor, if you're booked, the idea is you block out that day and you do not accept any other work that day.
Mm-hmm.
So you're supposed to be paid for that day in a sliding scale. Like if it's if it's several months out and you get dropped, I think you get, but like this was like, they want you 2 days from now. Oh, they're canceling you. Theoretically, I'm supposed to be paid. So what my agent did is he said, you can't keep doing this to my client. You have to book him for 2 weeks. And they went, okay. And so for 2 weeks, I was hired. And all I had to do was phone up and go, am I coming in today? And they'd go, no. Great, I get paid.
Nice.
I phone up the next day. Am I coming in today? No, we're gonna have you, but now we can't. You don't have to show up. Okay, great. Boom. Then they finally say, yeah, come in. So cool. So I come in. And I remember this vividly. I go into the Mabuhay, and as I walk in, Gloria Katz is coming out. She's walking out, and she has this expression on her face like her life is a wool sweater being slowly unraveled by some nail behind her. She's just like walking through, and she kind of gives me this glance and hustles by. I'm like, all right. So I go in and I look over, and to my left, in front of me, probably about 20 feet, there is George Lucas, and I'm guessing the cinematographer or a lighting director, somebody, because George was only like, he, and you guys would know this better than I do. He was executive producing. He wasn't really supposed to be hands-on with this. This was Willard and Gloria's deal. And so he's on set, and he's talking to some light. Like I said, I don't know who it was, but they're standing there, and George, like, he's, and then this other guy's like, okay, well, they're obviously talking about setting up the shot and then what to do next and whatever. Over to my left, their right, Willard is standing, and he's probably 10 feet away, and he's just standing looking. And as George and this guy, they're talking, what about this? Willard says something. Where he's standing, he like says something. And George turns and just gives him this look of death, like I have never seen before. Just stares at him. Willard stands there, and then George turns back to this guy, and they start talking, and then things continue. It was very obviously
Jedi mind trick.
There was clearly tension on the set at this point.
Wow.
Yeah, but I remember that distinctly. Was like this. It was kind of, the look of like, I should not be here. What's going on?
It must have been a whirlwind for you to have that where you see the beginning of the production, you go away and you come back, and then like, what happened while I was gone?
Exactly. What the heck happened over the course of a couple of months? Like, how did things get and you guys did a bunch of research, there was lots of, lots of problems with various things. So anyway, but then so now I'm doing the second part where I am being thrust into the club. And so the idea is that they've thrust Howard into my hands, and I run into the club, and then somebody steals Howard from me, and then more wackiness ensues. He goes all kinds of other places. He gets handed off a lot. I wore my own clothes. I wore my own clothes, and they were like, "Oh, this is great." So what you see me wearing is my stuff.
That was your suit.
That was my suit.
I was going to compliment the suit. That was a brave choice. I mean, it was the 8th, so I guess it was the only. That
was my suit. But what you didn't see was I had these big, weird, they weren't platform shoes, but they were shoes with heels about this big. And the front of them had these very weird sort of bulbous triangle patches on them. They were really cool shoes, especially for that time. But the thing is that you never really saw them, but the costume person really loved them. So my shot, I'm getting Howard, I am being thrust backwards and while holding Howard, and then he gets handed off. Well, there's all these cables lying around. There's all like, and so we do a rehearsal, and I'm stumbling over my heels. And I say to the costume person, I said, is there any way we can do this without the shoes? Because there's all these cables around, and I'm a little concerned. And and she goes, no, you got to keep the shoes for continuity. And I said, well, nobody sees the shoes. He goes, just keep them. I was like, okay. So Anyway, so we do this take, and they thrust. Now, as you know, Howard is a human in a duck suit, right?
I was
So
gonna ask if you
Wolf of
got
Wall Street's about to happen.
if you got a doll thrown at you or an
no,
actual
no.
small person.
It was a little person in a duck suit. And so we do a couple of takes, and and we're like, like, are you okay? Because I have to grab him, and then he gets handed off. So we want to make sure he's okay, right? Because he's Howard, for one thing. He's freaking Howard the Duck. So we do a couple takes, and everything's a couple rehearsals, and I'm like, how are you? And he's like, oh, everything's good. And I'm like, okay. So we do a take, and they thrust Howard into my hands, and I'm being pushed backwards, and I trip over one of the cables. And my first thought is, save the duck. And I fall back, I'm falling backwards, and I'm hoping I'm going to land on my butt, but I'm also like, I've got to cushion Howard. And as I'm falling backwards, I look through the mouth of the costume, and I see these huge, terrified eyes staring at me as I'm falling backwards. And it's like, and so I managed to fall really well. I cushion him. He doesn't hit anything. He's okay. And when I hit the ground, these crew members come running over, and they grab Howard, and they go, "Are you okay? You okay? You okay?" And they just leave me lying there. And I'm like, I'm okay, and I get up, and then we finally did it, and it
Here comes the makeup artist. I think you should take those shoes off. Yeah, the makeup artist. I think you should take those shoes off.
So anyway, so that was my experience, and it was big. It was really actually a big fun. It was really big fun and quite strange. So yeah.
Oh, so let me ask you this then. Adversely, what was it like when you actually saw it for the first time? What was your honest opinion when you saw it?
There were parts I liked, but it did not capture the spirit of the comic book, because the comic book, as you know, Howard is very acerbic, and he's just dealing with stuff. As the theme goes, he's trapped in a world he never made. So he's just dealing. Mm-hmm. He's a little fluffier. He's a little friendlier. He also, he looked, the roundness was a little too cute. There was something about the comic book version where his head's kind of a little more oblong. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of disappointed by the movie. I thought it was fun. I thought it was weird. But I didn't think it completely captured the spirit of the book, the comic book, the source material. So.
Yeah, I think we went into it with the benefit of not comparing it to not having to compare it to the comic, because the movie was our first impression of Howard the Duck. Like, and then it was jarring for me to see the illustrations of him in the comic. I'm like, that doesn't look like
right.
Howard. You mentioned a little bit like the interaction with Willard Hayek. What was it like working with him? Just in general,
what I remember is it was very simple. I mean, my scene is very simple. I get the duck and I walk back. So, I mean, we didn't have a lot of interaction. There wasn't a lot of, what I had to do. So that was fine. I mean, it was perfectly fine. Like once he got, hands on, he seemed to be okay. Seemed to be fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, yeah.
The residual checks. We're always. I'm in a group on. I like that laugh. That kind of tells me. So I'm in a group on Facebook called Cruise Stories, and I think it's funny. A lot of the times people on there post pictures of their residual checks for like 0.001.
Yeah.
And, it costs more to print this thing than it did to pay. We talked to a lot of actors that did like what one of our guests called Where's Waldo parts in movies, and so it's always it's just like a curiosity of ours what those residual checks look like, and you don't have to be specific, but just curious.
Yeah, well, they get Less and less, obviously. I think I have actually saved some residual checks that have been for like 15 cents or like 9 cents. I did voice ADR work for the movie Willow.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was additional dialogue stuff. I happen to get a check here. I just got it a couple days ago. Disney Worldwide Services, $3.82.
It's so like, come on, Disney, you can't round up to 4.
No, and it is very specific about it is for the international rental, electronic sell-through, video DVD, free TV, and pay TV. Actually, I get the most money from the international or the internet rental. It's not international, internet rental. So anyway,
So
yeah,
are they lifetime? Like if there's like a resurgence in Howard the Duck sales, is 10 years from now, is that it's like, does that ever expire as far as?
I don't think so. I don't know much about it, but I think from what I understand, as long as a movie or television show is out there and part of a package, then the people involved get their residual checks.
That's really cool. It makes you think, like when you see actors that have like 150 credits going back to like 19th, like that got to add up. You get a little retirement out of that.
Oh sure, yeah, you're getting 100 residual checks every few months. Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah.
You went into quite a bit in the production, but is there a particular memory that stands out to you as a favorite memory from the production?
Well, I think my favorite part was falling backwards with the human in the Howard costume. And I'm only like that because it was so weird. Nobody got hurt. He didn't get hurt. I didn't get hurt. And it was just so strange. Like as I'm falling backwards, I remember thinking, as I said, save the duck. And I hope I don't get hurt. And it all worked out well. So that was part of it, because it was just such a weird thing to do, was be involved in this thing with this guy in a duck suit.
It was funny. We were when you said you could see his eyes through the mouth, like it was just serendipitous that we could actually picture that in our heads. We were talking to Miles Chapin, who was credited as the duck coach, and he had showed us a picture of the open mouth on Howard, and you could see like the human mouth on the inside, and it just was creepy. So I know. I could totally picture what you're saying, like as you're going down, to be able to see inside the mouth and see these wild eyes, like, please don't drop me.
I mean, he was obvious. I mean, because he is like seeing himself coming towards the floor. So he's obviously nervous. I mean, I could have just chucked him, I mean, there's any number of things that could have happened to the poor guy. So anyway, worked out well. So.
And you were being a fan of the comics before the film, or would you be interested in seeing them give it another shot with like the resurgence in MCU properties and things like that, and maybe having a place in the MCU? Yeah,
I would. But I, now that, CGI has advanced so much, obviously do CGI. Make him look more like the comic book character, and really get some writers in there who really study and it's been a while since I've read the Howard the Duck books, but get somebody there who really understands what the writer was going for, that he's he's observant, he's confused, he's completely out of his element, he wants to get back home, but somehow he's thrust to all these adventures. I mean, I remember one of them was Hell Cow, the vampire cow that he had to deal with. So focus more on really getting his character and what he's going through. and give him an edge, because he was an edgy character.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to. And as I said, now that CGI has advanced, like he could, do it, he could be so much part of everything. And I think the other Marvel characters would have a great time with him.
Yeah, I could definitely see it, and I think I think he deserves it. The comic book deserves it, but
Yeah.
studios now are so much. I don't know if they are more courageous in doing this, or if they just have the ability to make those kind of risks now with like streaming platforms and things like that. But I've noticed that they're a lot more. They've gotten a lot better at honoring the source material when they like turn a comic book into a film. They're not afraid to like. Seemed like before the suits would get in the way and be like, we need to sell toys,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and now it's like, no, we're gonna the fans of this character, this is what they love, this is what we're giving them when we translate it to film. Like Dark Knight and things like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
Well, I think you hit on the key, which is streaming. So, they can almost do a test run of it with streaming. They could, put the money into streaming. If it hits, they make it a series, they make a bigger movie out of it. I think that's where you said that where they're allowing more creative control to writers and directors, because an audience will be found, and it does not have to be a vast audience. And if you're lucky, then you get a big hit, and then you get, because as William Goldman will tell you, in his book The Screenwriter, he said nobody in Hollywood knows anything, and of course the stories of movies that people said, the executive says this isn't going to work. Star Wars is, that's a classic. It got turned down by 19 studios before, somebody went, sure, why not? Especially since Lucas is not going to take his director's fee. What the hell? We'll throw it out there, So, I think now it really is. They are allowing. Let's bring in this person and have them do it and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, well, okay, we haven't lost the whole barn on it. So yeah.
And Marvel's just going nuts now.
Well,
like
and
every
Marvel,
intellectual property they have, it's like you're getting a show, you're getting a movie,
right.
You're getting. It's incredible to see.
It really is. Yeah, it's amazing. So, and I think I don't know if this is true so much. They're starting to give the character. They're starting to give the superheroes actual characters that you actually care about, as opposed to they have superpowers. Like, I think The Dark Knight is one of the great movies, genre, not even specific. There is so much going on there. Every time, it's one of those movies that when it's on TV, even though I have the DVD, like if it comes on TV, I'm like, oh, I'll watch this part, and and so, I think that's gonna, I haven't seen the new, and the people are putting humor into it, like the new Suicide Squad, which I haven't seen yet, which I'm actually looking forward to. So, but I think, like you said, the streaming, I think, is a part of it, because they just need to have content, and to have that much content, they're just going to let people be a bit more creative.
I feel like the kids that grew up loving this stuff are now the suits that are making the decisions, and it's fine. It's finally shifted. It's like, no, we're doing all of it. Deadpool's getting his movie.
Yeah.
And and then you're right about The Dark Knight. It's a genre, like not even just a great superhero movie, but a fantastic movie in general. And the Academy agreed.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Heath Ledger's performance is just
it stuns me every time I see it. Absolutely stuns me. I rewatch various scenes over and over again, and just his physicalization, his vocalization, little looks that he gives. And then of course his voice, you know, the whole voice modulation.
Yeah, I went into it very skeptical too, because first of all, there's Jack Nicholson, and it's like, who could possibly stand in that shadow and shine?
Right.
And then you're gonna put Heath Ledger, like 10 Things I Hate About You,
Right.
like the rom-com dude, like
Right.
how is,
Right.
and he blew me away. And now
Yeah.
between him and Joaquin Phoenix, I can't decide who my favorite Joker is, but I know that Jack Nicholson is now my third, and that's crazy because they're all great.
Well, yes, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, but yeah, my favorite, hands down, has got to be. I mean, you know, I can, I could talk about there are just so many, odd looks, and and just, you can, and humor in it. There's I don't there's that hilarious moment where he's blowing up the hospital and he's walking outside in the nurse's uniform, and the thing won't work, and he kind of throws up his hands, and then it explodes, and then he does this weird little walk. I mean, it's funny. It's really funny.
You
So
could tell that he spent so much preparation on that character, that he felt confident enough to make decisions like that in the moment, that most people probably wouldn't have. They may have played it more straight, but it was like second nature to him. It seemed like he was living in the moment as that character.
I think I read somewhere, and you probably know more about this than I did, that he actually had a really thick book of character notes. Like, he was super immersed in the character and the backstory, and what it should look like, and why does he talk the way he talks, and why does he move the way he moves, and the whole thing.
Yeah, I think the story goes that he spent like a month or so, I can't remember the exact time, but he put the book together while locked in solitude in a hotel room, playing the Clockwork Orange on repeat with the Ramones blaring at the same time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, and I think a lot of times people attribute that role to his death, and from what I've heard, that's just kind of like a myth. As much as we'd like to romanticize how much he put, I mean, he could have still put everything into a performance and it not killed him. So
right. No, I think there was something else going there. It wasn't just the role. So
I think he's professional enough to be able to draw that line. And he went on to do the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus afterwards. Well, at least got halfway through that, which was another great performance. So we have went. Here's a topic, and we were way off it.
We did. Oh well, you can cut that part out. I don't
know. No. I never cut anything out about Heath Ledger.
Okay, there you go. Good.
We'll get back into the magic, I'm sorry, what did you refer to it as again?
Mentalism.
It's like the guy on Netflix. I've watched a lot of his specials. He's I think he's British. He's got a shaved head. I cannot remember his name. Darren Brown.
Yes.
What introduced me to him was a show called he did a special called The Push, where he tried to convince somebody to kill somebody, essentially. And how do you feel about his work?
Well, I think he's very good at what he does. I am skeptical of some of his claims, especially when it comes to essentially hypnotism or controlling other people. It's been a while since I've seen him. Some of the things he does is really, truly mind-blowing. Then he makes some very big claims that I think are meant to be for good television rather than actual fact. But he does well.
Yeah.
The mentalist I am most impressed by is a man, Derek Delgado, who did he has a special on Hulu. The name of which I can always forget the name. If you look at, I'll look it up here. But his show, I saw his show live. I don't know why I always forget the name of his show because it's so good.
Let's see. Is that in and of itself?
In
or
and of
not the
itself,
movie?
yeah. Derek
Okay.
Delgadio. Yeah, in and of itself. Yeah, I don't know why I keep it. And seeing it on Hulu is a great experience. And he combines a lot of it is storytelling. And then, and it's a very emotional piece, but he does stuff in that just blows my mind. And if you haven't seen it, the final effect is stunning, is absolutely stunning. And
Nice.
what he does with the audience at the end is just is amazing.
I'll definitely check it out.
You
My-
should.
My,
Yeah.
my wife and I are huge fans of anything that is magic, mentalism, all that. We like
then yeah. In and of itself, check it out. It's a great performance. It was produced by or co-produced by Stephen Colbert. The
nice.
original production was directed by Frank Oz.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Yoda himself.
exactly. So it really is. I mean, it's a very much a theatrical performance using the getting into the performance of using mentalism and mind reading and other skills like that. So it's terrific. Yeah, it's very good.
For magicians, mentalists, illusionists out there that are aspiring to do this, what is the best advice that you would give them?
To realize that you are the entertainment, not the magic. The problem with a lot of magicians is that they think the entertainment is the trick. So they think like, oh, pick a card. Hey, look at that. Isn't that entertaining? Hey, you're thinking of this number. Okay. That's not the entertainment. The entertainment is you as a performer. And the mentalism or the magic is a way to present you being entertaining. And you have to be entertaining beyond that. You have to be entertaining beyond any trick or effect that you're doing. And to do that takes, first of all, lots of practice. And second of all, searching for who you are, either as a character or yourself.
Yeah.
For many years, I just performed sort of as myself, a little bit bigger, but like a stand-up comic would do or something like that. And it wasn't until I decided to perform as this character that I really started to enjoy it, because I could kind of hide behind the character. And so, and I think, and I work to make that character entertaining. Like there are times when the character of Sebastian can just go out and just yap at the audience for 10 minutes and is pretty entertaining. At least he has been so far. So that's the main thing, is realize you are the entertainment, not your tricks. Your tricks are the enter to the entertainment. And, a lot of magicians don't get beyond that. I think a lot of, most of the magicians are men. It's just a fact. I mean, there are more, thankfully, women magicians coming on. And I think young boys get interested in magic because it's a way to be in control. You are doing something that is fooling other people, and ultimately that feels powerful and you're in control. So, if you're an insecure boy, which most magicians are, or if you're just insecure in general, this gives you power, and it gives you control. And the thing is a lot of magicians don't ever go beyond the the persona of I am fooling you, and that's the whole thing, is I am doing something you can't figure out, and therefore that's the entertainment. And that's not the entertainment. That gets old very fast. So, but I think that's a phase that you go through as a young performer, and then you realize, no, it is me who's the entertainment, and I just do these things as a way to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Was there a particular magician that inspired you to look at magic as a possibility that you would pursue?
yes, I went to see Penn and Teller many years ago, and I was a fire eater at the time, and I was a good fire eater, but I was a mediocre entertainer. I really was. I thought, okay, I'm eating fire. That's the entertainment. And I had various things that I would do and a couple of jokes here and there. But I really thought, like, okay, I'm eating fire. That's the deal. I went to see Penn and Teller perform, and at one point in the show, Penn comes out and he sits on a chair and he talks about learning to eat fire. And he talks about learning to eat from this old carny. And he spins this whole story about how the thing is, when you eat fire, even as careful as you are, you swallow a little bit of the fluid, and so you're essentially ingesting poison. And he spins this whole story, and it took like 5 minutes at least. And then at the end, he lights a torch and he eats it, and then he does another very simple thing, and that was it. And he got thunderous applause. And I remember thinking, he didn't do anything. He ate a torch. I do that. I do more than that. I light it up. And I was realized, oh, that's it. It's the story. It's the entertainment. It's the behind it. And the fire eating is just a way into it. And that was the moment I realized, got it. It's not, as I like to say, the thing is not the thing. The thing is not, the fire eating is not the thing. The trick is not the thing. The thing is not the thing. You're the thing. You're the thing, and you're just doing this other stuff. So that was the moment. I remember. Great question. I hadn't thought about that in years, but that was it. I remember it clearly, like the light bulb going off over my head. Like, oh, wow, right, okay. And when you see them, right, and when you see them perform, the two of them are just entertaining as all get out. They're funny as all, and then they do this other stuff which allows them to be funny. So
I love the routine that they do. I can't remember the song, but there's a song that they recorded to go with it, and they pretty much go through the whole magic routine, and then within the song, they show you how they were doing it. They start pulling off all of the walls that were hiding the
right. It's
platform.
That's the
blast off.
Let's blast off. Right. It's the it's I don't remember what they call it. It's a stacking illusion where you're giving the impression that you're taking apart somebody's body. And I love them for doing that, because it just shows like how difficult it is, and it's still entertaining. Have you seen them do their clear cups and balls?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you that I did.
Okay, if you look up Penn and Teller clear cups and balls, you'll find it. So what they do is a cups and balls routine. And, the cups and balls is considered one of the oldest tricks in magic. And it's literally cups and balls. You've probably seen it, you lift up a cup, there's a ball, you put it down, now there's two. And then, it's just like things appearing and disappearing under cups. So they do a routine with cups you cannot see through, and it's brilliant. It's very quick. It's probably about a minute. It's very fast. And then they do it with clear cups and telling you exactly what he's doing, what's happening through the whole thing. And it's just rapid fire. Okay, now we're doing this, we're pulling this out, and I'm pulling this out. And now it's still wildly entertaining, and you still can't believe what you're seeing, even though you're seeing everything right in front of you, and they're telling you how the whole thing works.
Yeah, it's a whole other level of talent when you can blow the illusion and still find people like perplexed by the magic of it.
Absolutely, and it takes it to this other level where people realize the skill that goes in, and just how funny it is that they're actually revealing how they're doing it, and yet it's mystifying and funny.
Yeah. I know you said that that you're primarily focused on the tours right now. Is there any shows coming out or anything that you're working on, or just anything in general that you'd like the audience to know about?
Not at this point. I don't have any performances coming up. Things have been shut down for the COVID, so I haven't been doing any Zoom performing. My live performing has been cut back. If I would want the audience to know about anything, it's you come to San Francisco and take a tour with Small Car Big Time Tours. That would be outstanding. I talk all about San Francisco history and California history and all of that. It is not one of those tours where I just point at things and tell you what they are. There's a lot of talk about the history of San Francisco, the culture, architecture, and I can customize it to whatever people want to see. So I would say that.
What is is there like a particular tour request, a custom tour request that was like the most interesting to you, or the strangest request?
Well, it wasn't strange. It was really fun. I got a request from a priest and his two other family members, and he is a priest in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and he wanted to go to several different churches to look at the churches and pray. And so we went to all these different cathedrals all around San Francisco, and the oldest one being Mission Dolores, which dates back to the 1780s.
Wow.
And we went all around. We went to all these various places. I've had people who I had a guy recently who had a list of secret places and hidden gardens that he wanted to see. So we went all around and we saw those, which was fun because it took me to places even I didn't know about. And so we got to explore like little nooks and crannies of San Francisco. I had a guest once, it was a husband and wife who was in town with their 14-year-old son. And they wanted to show him all the places they lived in San Francisco, where he proposed to her, where they lived, and then the last place they lived before they moved. I can't remember where it is they moved. So it was a tour of their life and courtship.
That is a winning date idea right there. It doesn't get much more romantic than that.
Yeah, so that was fun because as they drove by, they were like, "Oh, remember when we, remember? And this was our place where we used to." Yeah, it was adorable, and so that's the fun part is being able to do whatever people request. So
yeah. I'll be sure to put the information in the description, and if you are in the San Francisco area or if you're visiting San Francisco, we'll encourage people to check it out for sure.
Yes.
Before we say goodbye, is there I'm so used to somebody saying with me. Before I say goodbye, he said goodbye a long time ago. I'm a ship abandoner. Do you have any parting words that you'd like to leave the audience with?
No, this has been great. I love the idea that Howard the Duck is achieving this odd cult status. I think it's deserved because it's was a very strange experience. As people can see, I think people can feel the strange vibe, in the movie, that there's clearly something odd going on there. I think people had fun, in spite of sort of the tensions. I think most people had fun. Most of the people I worked with had fun. But also, thanks for asking me to talk about this. It was great fun. It was a real pleasure talking to the two of you. And this was great. Thank you for asking me to do this. And I look forward to seeing folks here in San Francisco. Get on the website, call me, or whatever. Small car, big time tours. And other than that, thanks. This was great.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for taking the time. I mean,
my pleasure.
The stories were fantastic about Howard the Duck. I mean, that's why we love talking to so many people from the production, because you talk to 4 or 5 people and everybody's so modest. They're like, oh, I was only in it for this one little part, or I only did this. Like, first of all, everybody's a star. Everybody is necessary to make the full picture. If you leave the color blue out of the picture of the sky, you don't have the sky anymore.
Right.
And when you talk to all these people like yourself, you get this fuller picture of what happened. There's stories that we've heard today that the director probably doesn't even know. It's just,
I'm sure.
It's just very interesting to us. So thank you for taking the time to share. I'm sorry we both couldn't be here for the duration.
I am too. Say goodbye.
I will. And I thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
Have a fabulous weekend and continued success with the podcast.
Thank you.
I think it's gonna continue to be big fun. I think that you've hit on something here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right.
All the best, sir. Have a good weekend.
You too. Take care.